Hi, this is Azim Lateeb from Montefiore Medical Center, New York. It's a real pleasure to be back again at EBC and to talk to you during this Medtronic Symposium. I'm going to be talking to you about dual antiplatelet therapy after bifurcation PCI. These are my conflicts of interest. So when we think about bifurcation lesions and we think about dual antiplatelet therapy, our natural instinct is to think that these patients require longer durations of dual antiplatelet therapy because we're dealing with lesions that are more complex, where flow may be turbulent, where there may be stent under expansion or malapposition, and where there may be more metal around the bifurcation. And historically, more metal around the bifurcation has been associated with the concern for an increased risk of stent thrombosis. There have been a number of studies in the past that have suggested that the risk of stent thrombosis is increased with two stents at the bifurcation. And so we should be prolonging our dual antiplatelet therapy. However, as we continue to perform PCI in more elderly patients, we also have become more concerned about the risks of bleeding, in particular in patients who are at high bleeding risk. Unfortunately, there are no randomized controlled trials specifically looking at DAPT in bifurcation lesions. And so the best we can do is use sub-analyses of randomized controlled trials or retrospective studies to inform our decisions. On this table published by Zimmerino and colleagues in Neurointervention this year, you see a summary of the data we can use to inform those decisions. So you see the pool analysis by Justino, specifically looking at complex lesions, suggesting that long-term DAPT reduces the risk of MACE and complex PCI. The data by the sub-analysis of the DAPT study by Rob Ye, showing again that long-term DAPT reduces MI and stent thrombosis, but increases bleeding, and this is more evidence in complex lesions, to then more studies more specifically looking at bifurcation lesions, such as the COBUS-2 registry, that looked only at bifurcation lesions and showed that after propensity matching, the risk of death or MI was lower in long versus short-term DAPT, long being more than 12 months. And then the EBC registry by Zimmerino and colleagues, also looking at over 5,000 patients treated for their bifurcations and looking at different durations of DAPT, showing that long-term DAPT was associated with a lower risk of MACE. Many of the studies consistently either show no difference or a protective effect from longer-term DAPT, but at the risk of an increased rate of bleeding. So we still sit with this conundrum about how do we balance the increased risk of bleeding versus the increased risk of ischemic events in this complex lesion. Well, since we are at a Medtronic symposium, what's the data for the Medtronic stent? Well, the data we have so far comes from this bifurcation analysis done by Matt Price and colleagues, looking at the Resolute Onyx post-approval study, which was a prospective multicenter single-arm trial in which they looked at 205 bifurcation lesions. These were lesions majority treated with a provisional approach, with only 3.4% of cases requiring double stenting. So maybe not the most complex lesion, bifurcation lesions, because they could be treated with a provisional approach. However, these were done well. Majority had POT, post-dilatation 71%, kissing inflation 18%. And when you look at the clinical outcomes of 1 year, the outcomes with the Onyx stent bifurcation was really good, with a TVF and TLF rate just above 6% and a 0% rate of stent thrombosis at 1 year. When you compare true bifurcations to non-true bifurcation lesions, there were really no difference in clinical outcomes. Suggesting again that irrespective of whether disease involves both branches or not, the outcomes may be good as long as you're doing a provisional approach. Well, this doesn't really answer the question as to whether we can abbreviate DAPT duration in patients treated with Onyx in a bifurcation. Well, the only data we have will be presented at TCT in a month's time, and that will be a sub-analysis of the Onyx One Clear study. Just to remind you, The Onyx 1 randomized study was an outside of the US randomized study looking at 30 days of DAPT in patients treated with either Onyx 1 or the BioFreedom stent. And the Onyx 1 Clear was a single arm study done in the United States, looking at patients who had no events at 30 days after implantation of the Onyx, who would then stop their DAPT after 30 days. Obviously, these were all patients at high bleeding risk. When you looked at the 1,500 patients in the Onyx 1 Clear study, about 14.5%, that is 218, had a bifurcation lesion treated. Again, these were majority, probably simple bifurcations. 89% were treated with a provisional technique and only 11% with a two-stent technique, which is probably reflective of our current practice. When you looked at single antiplatelet usage after 1 month, it was 97% for patients with and without bifurcations. So I think this data will really inform us as to whether we can shorten DAPT in high bleeding risk patients who are treated for bifurcation, particularly if they're treated with a single stent approach. I also like this algorithm proposal from Marco and colleagues on DAPT duration. And what they've tried to do is try to really summarize what many of us do in clinical practice, right? When we try and think about whether we can, how long to give patients DAPT, the questions we ask ourselves are, is this a patient with stable coronary artery disease, or is this a patient treated for ACS? Those with ACS will probably require longer durations of DAPT. Then, is this a single stent approach or double stent approach? And generally, we'd assume that patients with a double stent approach will require a longer duration of DAPT. And then they also looked at whether this is a high bleeding risk or not. Patients at a high bleeding risk will try and abbreviate the DAPT. And the last one, which I think is extremely important that Mark and colleagues highlight, is whether intracoronary imaging was used. I really believe that if you're going to be considering shortening DAPT in patients treated for bifurcation lesion, particularly if you treat them with two stents, then intracoronary imaging is mandatory to really be sure that you've implanted your stents correctly. There's no malapposition, and there's, more importantly, no stent underexpansion or struts that are hanging in the carina that may impact flow. And so if you want to shorten DAPT in patients at high bleeding risk, I would say that intracoronary imaging is an important part of that strategy and the decision making. So hopefully these few slides give you sort of what my approach is to DAPT in these patients. I like this algorithm because it really answers the 3 or 4 important questions I take into account when treating complex lesions and thinking about shortening DAPT, which is their presentation, the complexity of the approach I use, so double stenting versus single stenting, the bleeding risk of the patient, and then finally whether I use intracoronary imaging or not, which in my practice, I use intracoronary imaging in over 80% of cases. It helps me to inform my decisions. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today, and I look forward to meeting you again at EBC in person in the future. Bye-bye.